Welcome back to my channel, guys, and thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and share the content if you find it useful or if you think it may help someone. Let's continue talking about literature and using books within your homeschool to teach so many different things. So here's a book for our enrichment, character building, okay? It's called Thanks for the Feedback. This series has so many books that Julia Cook has written that just helps with character building. And I have a few, okay? So what I would do, I would use this for my toddler. We would read it out loud. I would talk about the pictures. So I would tell her, what does feedback mean? What are these pictures? You know, on top of his head. Why is the picture on top of his head? What are the colors that you see? You know, and then as I'm reading, I would, take my finger and slide it across the words as I read. She's only 2.5 at the making of this video, so obviously she cannot read, but she is putting sounds together and learning her phonogram. So I would say t, th, ah, k, s, thanks, THANKS. Thanks. TH. Thanks. Stuff like that. And my son bears with me as I read the book because they're both there when I read these types of character building books. So I would read the book, and for my daughter, I would say, let's talk about the picture. What's going on in the picture? I would ask my son, look at the picture. What's going on? What are you seeing? And then let's say I read this paragraph. When my teacher's words went into my head, I started to think about what she said. I had no idea what to say back to her. Then all of my words just turned into a blur. What is this? Poetry. Why is it poetry? Rhyming words. What are the rhyming words? Head and said, her and blur. Very good. Teachers. What type of word is teachers? A contraction, right? Is it a contraction? No, it's not a contraction. So I would do that to just, be playful and to also trick him to make sure he's not, agreeing with me just to agree that he's really paying attention. So I would say, teacher's contraction. And then he would say, oh, yeah, it's a contraction. I'll say, why is it a contraction? He'll think about it. Hold on, that's not a contraction. And then we'll talk about that. And then if there are any words in here that he may not understand, but with this level of book, he would understand all the words. So here I would probably pull out some spelling words for him. If there, were any words that were a little bit difficult, maybe like the word reached. That's not difficult, but I would probably still put that on a list. Maybe notice. I would put the word blur in terms of vocabulary. What does the word blur mean? So I would use the one book to talk about character, because if you read the story, it's excellent in terms of when someone gives you feedback, when someone gives you a positive compliment or a compliment or any type of feedback or positive or criticism, constructive criticism, how do we deal with that? How do we process the information if we don't like what we hear? And how do we process the information when we like what we hear? You say thank you if you agree with it. If you don't agree with it, sometimes you still have to say, well, thank you for that. I don't see it that way, but let me, do some internal work to determine if, this is how I really am. Because if others see me this way, there must be something that I must be missing in terms of my behavior. So let me go ahead and, do some self-evaluation on that. So we talked about. Also, if you are utilizing your literature, don't forget to take each sentence and classify it. You can classify each sentence or you can diagram each sentence. Personally, in our home education, I prefer to classify sentences, but either one will work. And what that basically means is you are basically dissecting that sentence and identifying all the parts of speech, okay? So identify your antecedents. Identify your prepositions, your prepositional phrases, your adjectives, your adverbs, and so forth and so on. Also, you can identify what type of sentence is that. Is that a declarative sentence, imperative sentence, interrogative, exclamatory? How do you know? What punctuation mark does that represent? Is our sentence even complete? Does it represent the 5 parts of a sentence? You know, is there a subject-verb agreement? Is there a capital letter? And things of that nature. So you can dive into that with all your literature as well. So I wanted to mention that to you guys. So for my daughter, when I read, it would be strictly colors, phonetic sounds, letter sounds, pictures, animated voices. For my son, the lesson, the character lesson we're trying to learn. If there are any vocabulary or spelling words I can pull out, and things of that nature. So hopefully this was helpful to you guys. If you have any questions for me, please leave them in the comment box below. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. As always, be blessed. Keep homeschooling on. Make it a great day. Bye.